Hello, everybody, and welcome to Haiku Talk. I'm your host, Ben Ga, your friendly neighborhood haiku poet, and today we're going to be taking a look at a piece from the autumn issue of Frogpond. Yes, the autumn issue in 2024. I haven't done a piece from this as of yet. Been just kind of rereading this a couple times and finally hit on a piece that I want to talk about. That piece is from Patricia Daharsh with the first line of test results. So, you know what that means. It's time to sit back, relax, grab yourself a tasty beverage, and let's haiku. Welcome back, everybody. It's good to be with you again for another episode of Haiku Talk. And yes, I am going to the I guess it's the last issue I've received of Frogpond. I know there's a new one in the works, or we'll be submitting to it soon. Anyway, that's a maple tree, and outside it is snowing in the middle of February here in St. Louis. And this is a piece that hit me a couple times. I've talked about my reading process, and for this one, you know, I go through these about 3 times, these print journals, before I put them back on the shelf. And so as you can maybe see, I'll try to get it up there. So I've got 2 tick marks. It's kind of bad lighting, but 2 tick marks and a Haiku Talk question mark. And the first time I read through this issue, I didn't mark this poem. The second time through, I marked it. The third time I threw, I marked it, and I put a Haiku Talk tick mark by it to think maybe this is a candidate as one I want to talk to. And what's true of a lot of things is that when you reread things, you're reading them, or anytime you read anything, you're reading them in the context of your life at that moment. And as probably winter deepened and other news and things happened, the weight of this poem really kind of stuck with me. And it really stuck with me more recently because, again, it's, as that first line suggests, it's test results. It's not for me or any of my immediate family, but I have friends out there that are going through some things. And this poem really struck a chord with me this time. And so we're going to take a look at this one. I debated whether or not to do it because the energy isn't necessarily positive. It's not really negative. It's just sort of, But sometimes we need poems that take us to that kind of space. And if nothing else, to let us know that experiencing a moment like this is natural, normal, okay. And with that in mind, let's take a look at this piece. The poem goes like this. Test results. The shape of water over stones. Test results. The shape of water over stones. Now, some people might be sitting out there going like, I don't get it. Why does Ben seem to be so affected by this poem? And you know, I don't hear anything. There's no big call outs to any sort of serious thing. We don't know what's going on. What's the point with the shape of water over stones? I don't get it. It doesn't connect with me in any way. I don't know how to interpret this poem. And that's fair. Like anything you read, that's 100% fair. You know, if it may engage you, it might not. And like I said, this one didn't engage me the first time I read it. But on repeated readings and life happening, it hit me. And let me explain why. First off, this poem follows our fragment and phrase format, with the first line being the fragment of test results. Now, in the book here, it's a little short dash. There's another poem further up the page with a little short dash, and I'm wondering if it should have been an M dash and it's a typo, but there's a dash after it. And the phrase is the shape of water over stones. The shape of water over stones. And for me, it's it's what haiku does. It's the juxtaposition of those two things together that make this moment happen for me, that make it uncomfortable. To put it in story type terms, like the first line, test results. I mean, I can't read that line and not feel weight in it. I'm old enough in life to when I hear test results, to know it's not a final exam. It's not, how I did on my driver's test. It's not anything related to school or education or anything like that. When I read test results, I go medical. And so I sit with that first line for a moment, because I'm like, oh my gosh, what's coming next? Is this going to be a happy poem? Is this going to be a sad poem? What kind of poem is this going to be? Because I know test results, that's a weighty topic. And so when I read the phrase, and I'm just going to talk about the phrase next, not line by line per se, but that phrase, the shape of water over stones. The shape of water over stones. At first, I'm a little blindsided by it, because it's not a normal way of speaking. We don't generally talk about, like in day-to-day conversation, the shape of water over stones. And so it's a poetic phrase. It's a phrase that can only really exist in a poem or a song or a literature of some sort. It's not the way we talk to one another. But that first line, test results, is very plain. It's very the way we talk to one another. I mean, it gets right to the point. Test results, focuses in, like if there's a big long sentence and in the middle of that sentence, or that part of that sentence is test results, it's like that's the thing you clue in on. And that's the thing that this haiku strips away. Everything, it just focuses right in on test results. And so you get test results, and then you go into the shape of water over stones. And what's interesting about the shape of water over stones is that it's not calling attention to the sound of water. It's not calling attention to rocks or pebbles. Stones. It's a weighty word. That's a heavy word. Because of the sound of it, stones. They're not rolling like the Rolling Stones. There's water. It's not just water, it's the shape of water moving over stones. To me, this is a silence. To me, what happens here is that this poetic phrase suggests to me, if we want to bring up my three S's of haiku language: simple, succinct, and suggestive. The juxtaposition of those things together, the plain language and the poetic language, tells me that the test results are bad. And so the only thing I can do now in this moment is to go someplace that's out of my normal world. I'm taken out of plain language. I'm taken out of conversation. I'm taken out of even knowing what to do. I'm taken out of my senses. I'm just shocked. I'm shocked. And the only thing I can become aware of in this moment is just exactly the shape of water over stones. It's abstract. It's happening. It's movement. It's like you get this news and you just walk out and you don't know what to do. You don't know what to do next. The weight of the test result is so heavy that in that initial moment, you just don't know what to do. It's like, so you leave your normal sense of being able to pay attention to normal things, and you hyper focus in on something that you don't even have a name for. It's the shape of water. We don't have a name for that. It's just how water moves over stones. And in that moment, sitting with that image, I can't help but think of tumors. I can't help but think of just all sorts of things, bad things. And the more that I want to find definition of what's happening, the more I'm pulled to that shape of water, this abstract thing, this abstract movement, the shape of water over the stones. I mean, the water is shaping the stones with its movement. It's breaking them down. It's smoothing them. It's breaking down any defining characteristics that it might have had as like a rigid, rock with some sort of personality with, points and edges and who knows what's going on, until it becomes this smooth river rock or something, which is a beautiful thing in and of itself, but it is a thing of many things. It's a smooth stone at that point. And you're just watching the shape of water move. That's all over stones. And I just think this poem captures that moment of like deer in the headlights. Like, what did I just hear? What does this mean for me? What is my life now? And in the absence of having any answers, I'm focusing on the shape of water over stones. Come back to me in a moment. Give me this moment. Let me have this moment of not dealing with what I need to deal with. And give me this moment of peace and solace and some sort of meditative thing to occupy my being for a moment. And wow, this poem just really, really sits inside me, and I sit with it for a while. The other thing I like about it is that it doesn't give us an ending. Like it gives us this moment, and haiku do this, senryu do this, and all to some degree. They put you into a moment, and then but there's not necessarily a clear defined end of a moment, or maybe it's just something you notice and then move on, or you hear or you see and then you move on. This one, there's no indication of how long you'll sit in this moment. You could potentially sit in this moment for a long time with the weight of that first line, the weight of the first line on your shoulders, because it came first. And all you can do is sit and watch the shape of water over stones until you can figure out how to move again. And like I said, this just is a really heavy poem. Really well written, really well put together, and something you might not even notice as you read. I didn't notice it the first time I read through it. It didn't stick out on me well enough to even put a tick mark next to it. But it built. The second time I marked it. The third time I marked it and thought, I think this might be the one I talk about from this episode, from this issue of Frogpond. Because of the way that it puts us in this moment, drops us here, and captures that. My God, I don't know what else to do. My gosh, look at the shape of water over stones. Oh, interesting. I've never noticed that before. Good stuff. So again, anyone out there that has experienced something like this, or dealing with something like this, it's okay to sit for a moment. It's okay to pause. It's okay to not know what to do. It's okay to, and completely natural, to just let that just be for a bit. Because whatever's coming later, whatever's going to happen, it's going to happen. Whatever those test results mean, whatever path that comes ahead, that's going to come ahead. Just give yourself pause. Take a moment. Take a breath. Notice things around you. And that's what this poem says to me. Like I often say, haiku and senru give us permission to notice things in life. And I usually mean that in a pleasant, positive, enriching kind of way, where it can add lots of color. You see the world differently when you start really paying attention to the haiku lens of noticing small things. And those small things become big and life-enriching moments, because once you start to notice them, you realize how much beauty and wonder you're surrounded with all the time. You just give yourself permission to stop and say, wow, that's cool. Look at that. That's really pretty. Oh my gosh, look at the way those clouds are moving through the sky. Look at that sunset. Look at the moon tonight. Look at the moon. Regardless of what's going on in the world, this beauty is right there. This awe is right there. And in this case, in this moment, of not knowing, in my opinion, in my reading, of not knowing what to do with the test results, again, that first line, weighting down the phrase, sitting over that phrase, noticing the shape of water over stones. I mean, it is a cool thing to be aware of and to take notice of. And next time you're out walking by a little brook or a stream and you hear it babbling, look over, just watch the way water moves. Watch the way it interacts with those stones, with the rocks. It doesn't have to be a big river or a big stream or anything far or fancy. It could even be like you're washing your car with a hose and you watch the water roll down the gutter, the way it moves over the little pebbles down the street. Or you could be, sitting with some test results. I don't know. But hopefully you found this as interesting and engaging as I did. And keep that, be open to your poems when you're writing. Every poem wants to tell its own story, and you have to kind of find the tension, kind of where you think it should go and where it wants to go. And sometimes the poem just wants to be this kind of moment. And it can be uncomfortable, and it can be sad, it can be happy, it can just be a respite, a pause in the day. And that's okay. It can be that. Don't write away from that moment if the poem's trying to keep you there. And I'm very glad that Patricia did not write away this moment and allowed the moment to be what it is. It certainly moved me. Hopefully it gave you something to think about. Anyway, with that said, we've wrapped up another episode of Haiku Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Anybody that finds this channel, and it is one of those channels that I hope people find. I'm not trying to be a superstar or anything like that, but you know who you are. You know why you're here. You know why you tune in week after week. These things, it's good. It's good for us. These poems mean something. And come back, check out an old episode. Like this, give it a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this. Think about subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And if you liked and subscribed, thinking about ringing that bell to get notifications when new episodes do drop, because that all helps the channel show up in weird places and algorithms, helps other people find it who might need a channel like this. Thanks again. Until next time. Peace, everybody.